No, no.
Yeah, I understand that. But I'm saying that the oral Torah, it's what do you call? You say that this is all the explanation from Moses, correct?
Explanation of the
Moses,
5 books.
but the scholars, the rabbis, they commentated.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It is a commentary. The Mishnah is a commentary of the oral and the written Torah.
Yeah, but it doesn't comment. Yeah, but it doesn't comment on individual. It's not. It doesn't comment line to line. Generalization of it of Jewish. It's Jewish law in it. But it gives reference to where it is, but it's not commentating words.
So what's that between that? The difference between that, the Mishnah and the Midrash?
Oh no, Midrash is a bit different.
Yeah, what's the difference?
No, Midrash is something else. That is.
That's the commentary of the Mishnah.
No.
Yes, it is.
No.
Yeah, because
the commentary in the Mishnah is the Talmud.
The Talmud. Yeah, but Talmud and Mishnah are used interchangeably.
What is the Talmud?
No.
It is.
No, they're
What's
not.
the difference?
They're not.
Why not?
There's a significant amount of time between they were written. Significant generations. They're separate. The reason what you may be confusing is the way the Talmud is written. Is that it explains the Talmud is written that there's a Mishnah and then it explains it, but they're not interchangeable. There's significant generation differences and they have different standing of validity. If a Mishnah disagrees with the Talmud, the Mishnah is precedent.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's different. It's not the same. It's different, and they're not the same.
So the Mishnah would be a higher hierarchy.
Yeah, it's hierarchy.
What is the
Yeah.
Talmud used? Is it like the Hadith?
No.
Oh, okay. But it's used.
Yes.
Talmud is basically, if I'm not mistaken, it's basically rabbinical literature and traditions, right?
No. So the Talmud is an explanation of the Mishnah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was saying as well. It's an explanation of Mishnah, right? Let's go like this. That's what I'm saying.
The Talmud is an explanation of the Mishnah. The Mishnah is an explanation
of the oral Torah.
Of Jewish law.
Yes.
It's not. It's of law. This is. It's of Jewish law. All of this is of Jewish law.
Yes.
It's not on tradition. Is the wrong word, especially nowadays the way people use the word tradition.
Okay.
It's of law. It's what is the law.
Okay.
I had a follow-up question. I understand you said suspension of the death penalty, explained very well, but now what about the other prohibitions like no alcohol and things like that?
No prohibition of no alcohol.
So would you today be able to drink?
I drink.
Yeah, I know.
So I find that, how do you...
No, it is true. In Judaism, alcohol is not prohibited. But pork
You're not meant to get drunk.
Pork is prohibited. So pork, you don't drink, you don't eat pork?
No, they don't have pork.
I want to know personally, do you eat pork?
Never tried bacon in my life. And I have no interest.
I've always heard that alcohol was not allowed in Judaism.
We can drink, we can smoke, we can gamble. Let's see what else we could do
So
that
why
you
do
can't
people
do.
say that?
No, because there's different strands of Judaism. You get it?
So there is a strand that says no alcohol?
Not that I know about.
What's Kabbalah?
Kabbalah is mysticism.
Oh, mysticism.
So do you affirm that how can I call it? Okay, when you compartmentalize all of what we discussed, like the written Torah, the oral Torah, the Mishnah, the Talmud, do you say that this can never be abrogated? Ever?
I tell you like this. I'm trying to think. Never's the wrong word because God can change what He likes.
Okay.
But what we'll say is somebody comes today and claims he's abrogating it because God told him we wouldn't hold him in validity.
But Rambam, Maimonides says that when your Messiah comes, he is allowed to abrogate.
So when the Messiah comes, it's a separate story.
Why is it?
Because I don't know. I'm not sure what. Because when the Messiah comes, we believe God can abrogate it. As you believe God can abrogate what He says.
Yeah.
What you believe that God can change. What you believe God can change what He wants. Correct?
But we said the Sharia can never be abrogated.
Let's go. But you agree He can if He wants.
In the past, yes, but not anymore.
So God can't even now if He wants to. God can't.
No, because the Quran is His last and final revelation, the last and final message of Prophet Muhammad. Okay, so Sharia law will never be
He
abrogated.
gave us His will that He wanted.
But I'm asking you. But what I'm trying to understand from you, do you also apply the same standard to the halakha?
What?
Do you apply the same standard?
So
we say the Sharia law can never be changed.
We apply the same standard pre-Messiah days.
Okay, but then do you? But what I'm trying to say is that the Maimonides does say that when your Messiah does come,
Yeah.
He
I'm
will
not sure where
abrogate.
he says that.
he does.
I'm not going to argue because I'm not sure. I'm fluent.
So does it-
I
okay.
didn't read all his writings.
So,
He knows-
doesn't that mean? So
no, but
that-
let me
yeah,
explain.
go on.
Once you acknowledge, now, if he's saying that, again, I can't comment if it's true or not.
Okay.
And the hypothetical, he is saying that once the Messiah comes and God can do what he likes, we've acknowledged this is the Messiah. First, you have to acknowledge this is the Messiah.
Okay.
So, once you've acknowledged the Messiah and this is the messenger of God, then there's no issue with it.
Okay.
Explain logically what the issue is. Once you,
No, the issue is you say that the halakha is forever,
Yes.
but then on the other hand, you're saying when your Messiah comes, he is allowed to abrogate.
No, exactly. I don't know whether my mind says this. I'll take your word for it.
Okay.
Like I said.
My Maimonides does
So I
say that.
can't
It's one of
answer,
the
but I'm saying, just from a logical perspective, once you know for sure it's God,
Yeah.
then God can say what he likes.
Okay.
But the Messiah won't be God.
But the-
No, but we
I
acknowledge,
see where it's coming from. I see where
but
it's
we
coming from.
acknowledge, but once we acknowledge this Messiah is the actual Messiah and the messenger of God, we can take his word.
How
for
do
it.
you do that then?
So we have systems.
Because it seems like it may be a setup prone to someone like the Dajjal who can come and
I don't know who the Dajjal is,
the
man.
Antichrist.
Antichrist.
What?
He can come and show you he resurrects.
They don't
the
believe in
dead.
that.
Yeah, I know they don't, but when we believe in it and he comes out and he shows that he can resurrect and things like that, it would be very open for Judaism to accept
But
it.
they do have their own criteria to determine if there's a
Messiah.
true Messiah or a true prophet, right? You do have your own criteria. Yeah, you do. So, so if you have no problem that the halakha can be abrogated, right?
In theory.
In theory,
If you're
yes.
right, then again, I got
If I'm right, hypothetically, right, then if a person claims to be a prophet, but he fulfills all the criteria to be a true prophet, then you wouldn't have a problem accepting him, right?
if you're right.
If I'm right,
It all hinges on that Maimonides actually said this.
Yeah, I think you should look into it. He does say that. So what I want to know is, what are the criteria laid out in the Jewish corpus that fulfills the condition of being a true prophet? What are the conditions? Do you know?
So they have to descend from King David.
But that's for the Messiah. But what about a true prophet? A prophet.
Messiah-
Not all prophets are messiahs.
What?
Not all prophets are messiahs.
No. So, but you're trying to. I understand the point you're trying to get at. You're trying to get the point that Muhammad was a prophet, and so by default he's allowed to abrogate it.
No, I'm trying to see your line of thinking. Because you're saying
A prophet can't abrogate God. No, we don't believe that. That's very clear. We do not believe a prophet can abrogate.
but you believe that a Messiah
The
can
Messiah,
abrogate.
the Messiah.
Yeah, I understand. They're
We
Messiah.
believe the Messiah. I don't know. You're saying that the Maimonides says that. I don't know if that's
Okay.
true. If it is, the Messiah
Can you-
and the prophets are two separate things. We don't believe they're the same thing.
I understand that. I understand that because even in Jewish literature, there are three different types of messiahs. You have prophets, you have kings, you have priests. Correct?
But those aren't Messiah.
Yeah, there's three different types of messiah.
No, but none
Prophets.
of those are Messiahs.
No, I know you're saying the Messiah is different. I know
don't.
you're saying
We
that.
believe the word Messiah. The word Messiah.
But does the Jewish what I do want to know is, does the Old Testament or wherever in your Jewish corpus, does it ever say that no true prophet can arise before your Messiah arrives?
After the end of prophets, we believe that after the destruction of the Second Temple, prophecy ended for the Jewish people.
So can you elaborate that further?
In theory, it's possible in theory
Okay,
for someone to be a prophet for the non-Jews.
a prophet for the non-Jews.
Yes.
So what's your now we're gonna get now we get into the so what's your view about Prophet Muhammad? Peace be upon him? If you have no problem accepting a Gentile prophet that was sent to the Gentiles,
Just a quick question.
so I want to know what's your views about Prophet Muhammad? Peace be upon him?
What my views of him is the wrong question, and I'll explain.
Okay,
you-
go
I'll put it like this. The issue number one to discuss 1500 years later is I cannot, and I don't mean to be rude, but I'll be blunt.
Come on, let's be
I
honest.
cannot take the Quran to be valid. I can't. For 1500 years later, and I can't take the Hadith, none of it, and none of that can be taken as valid.
Okay.
For 15 years later, 1500 years later, you're asking. So the question. You are 1500 years later is there's no validity to it. Now one could make an argument that 1500 years ago he may have been, and I can't argue with that he may or may not have been because there's at the time people were able to tell. I can't answer that 1500 years later. Because even if I acknowledge he's a prophet, on the hypothetical I believe he's a prophet for the Gentiles, doesn't make the Quran valid or something I can hold. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand
So
what
I
you're
can't answer what you hold, what 1500 years to. I'm 1500 years too late.
I'm very interested. It's very interesting what you're saying. You know, about 1500 years too late, meaning that when the Prophet was around, there could have been a possibility for you to even like
Not follow him, but entertain the thought that he's a prophet for the Gentiles.
That's one of the views. I'm aware of that. So you basically said that you cannot accept after 1500 years a prophet arrives, etc. Right? But I would say that, with all due respect, I think your standards have fallen as well, because your first written Torah is after 1500 years or 1400 years.
Yeah, but there's a difference.
Why is it different?
I believe it's the word of God.
I believe the Quran is the word of God.
Oh, I do.
So
I know that. But you want me to cut?
do you have any extant copies of the? Do you have any extant copies?
No, let me answer you.
Okay, go on.
Now, even if he was a prophet, we're going down the hypothetical. That he was. Let's entertain the thought for a second.
Okay, fine.
Let me entertain that. Doesn't make, even according to Jewish law, doesn't make the Quran valid. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Okay, I think you're conflating. We say that the Quran is the verbatim
Word
speech
of
of
God.
Allah
So-
that was dictated to Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him, through the angel
So
Gabriel.
there's a
right?
possibility in Jewish tradition and law that if he was a prophet,
Yes.
still doesn't validate the Quran.
But if the
you
Prophet,
don't believe it.
wait, hang on. But can a prophet? Wait.